Okay, so this week I'm gonna do something a little special and we're gonna get our hands dirty and do some DIY and make some camera gear with cardboard. So before we get crafty, make sure to like this video and definitely you wanna subscribe so that way you can see more future content. So I'm sure if you've been quarantining, you've probably done a lot of online shopping, thus getting a lot of cardboard packages. And besides recycling all that cardboard, why not upcycle it? I actually got this idea from a No Film School blog post, and the video actually was made by a team called Cinecom on YouTube. Now I'm gonna admit, a lot of these are kind of stupid, but they can become a cheap alternative or something for a quick fix if you need to do it. So I built them all. I'll give you an honest review and tell you if it's useful or useless. There's 9 total crafts and you're gonna need a couple common supplies. That includes cardboard, duct tape, an X-Acto knife or scissors, and a pen. So let's go ahead and build the first thing. First, we're gonna build a tabletop slider. First, we're gonna need a giant slab of cardboard. Then you're gonna wanna cut a couple slices that are about equal length that are gonna go on the base of the slider. Next, we're gonna need another piece that's gonna go on top. This is where your camera goes. Then we're gonna take the other piece and then cut that into strips. These little strips are gonna become your railing for the slider. Then we're gonna get some long strips of duct tape and just place them onto the platform. You wanna make sure that there's enough space between the rails so that way the slider can fit, and then you can slide it around without any problem. Now, I tested this thing out. It's not bad, but it's not good. One of the first flaws is your cardboard has to be very smooth. Otherwise, when you are dragging the slide across the base, it's not gonna be very smooth and gonna be a little jerky. One of the major problems is when you put your camera on top of the cardboard slider, then it becomes really heavy to pull. So you have to use a lot of force to, one, hold down the base and to move the slider itself. Another gripe about it is it's kind of bulky, so it's hard to stow away. In fact, if you want to use a tabletop slider, I recommend just using my method of a towel or maybe a whiteboard eraser. So in the end, I call this useless. All right, let's move on to number 2, and this is a focus assist ring. For this, you're not gonna need that big of a piece of cardboard. Next, you wanna grab your lens that you wanna put this focus ring on. Then you're gonna trace around the diameter so that way you get an even circle. Then you wanna create like an outer circle. Now, okay, yeah, I know that this doesn't look that great. I'm gonna even it out later. Then you're gonna wanna take an X-Acto knife or your scissors and you're gonna cut out that center part. See, now you got a perfect ring here and there you go. Now here's your focus ring. What you're gonna do is you get a tiny piece of tape, then you're gonna fold it a little bit and then place it onto the focus ring of the lens. Then you're gonna place 2 marks. Basically, once you know your focal point A and focal point B, draw that onto the focus ring, and then the little tape becomes like an arrow. So that way it ensures that you hit those focus points. This tool is actually very useful, especially if you wanna be very precise with your focus. And if you do a lot of rack focusing, then it's good to at least have something to help mark down the focus points. However, one problem I have about it is that these focus rings are only lens specific. So if you have multiple lenses, you're gonna have to make a lot of them. So I would say this is more of like a quick fix if you need to do it, but I will still give this a useful. All right, let's move on to the third rig. What we're gonna make is a Viewfinder Sun Hood. For this, you're gonna need a long piece of cardboard. Next, you're gonna grab your camera. Now, here I have a Sony camera, and my Sony cameras have a weird flippy outy type of monitor. I have to find a way to make this sun hood slip over that little bar right there. So what I'm gonna do is take the cardboard and measure out the length of the monitor. So now that's the perfect length. This part that I folded is actually gonna be the part that slides over that little bar in the monitor. So right now what I'm doing is cutting out some slits so that way it slides over that bar and then sits perfectly on my monitor. And then I use the extra pieces then to create the little housing and the other wall, and then you just tape it up and finesse it. And there you go, now you got a monitor hood. Now this is something great to have in your arsenal, especially if you're filming outside. In the end, it'll work, but having a Sony or if you have a camera that has a built-in monitor, this probably isn't gonna be that useful of a tool. I'll still give this a useful though, because if you design it right, then it'll work. Now it's number 4. We're gonna build a softbox for your lights. All right, for the softbox, we're gonna need an actual box. And what I'm actually gonna use is this clamp light. You can probably get them for about 10 bucks. And you can use any light that you wanna make a softbox for. So then what you do is you put the light onto the back of the shoebox and then you trace the diameter. So now what we're gonna do is cut out this little hole. Now here's the trick. With the work lights, these have a little bit of a lip. So instead of cutting it to the exact diameter, I just wanna cut it a little bit shorter, so that way I'm gonna feed it through the inside of the box, and then that way that lip is resting on the inside of the softbox. And there you go. Now I'm just gonna tape it in, so that way it kind of just rests in place. Now what you're gonna need is some foil, so that way you could wrap the inside of the shoebox with foil. All you have to do is line the inside with some tape and then just put the foil over. Now I'm gonna make my softbox a little different. So instead of covering the box fully, I'm gonna create like a little bit of a hinge system. So that way I can take the diffusion on and off without having to retape it. Right here with this piece of paper, it'll just easily slide through, but I think it's a little too thin. So what I'm gonna do is create a little frame for the piece of paper. And yeah, you can use any piece of paper or preferably use parchment paper because it's a little bit more heat resistant. And there, see, the clasps kind of go over and helps it hold up a little bit. And look at that, see, it diffuses the light pretty well. And yeah, this is a little bit of warmer light bulb that I like, but it does a pretty decent job. Number one thing about this is you gotta be careful of fires, so use only LED light bulbs. If you're using LED panels, these softboxes probably aren't gonna work as well because you still have to find a way to mount it. In the end, I still find this as a very useful tool. It's great to use if you're using a lot of practicals or open face lights, and if you're working on a budget, definitely you can make this and it'll really vastly improve your lighting. Now number 5, we're gonna make a little tabletop mic stand. For this mic stand, we're just gonna need one piece of cardboard and you're gonna split it up into 2 equal pieces. Now what you're gonna do is create 2 holes. The main thing is you wanna make sure that they're big enough to fit your shotgun mic through, but also tight enough to have a snug fit. Well, here I didn't do a good job because the idea is that the microphone is supposed to be propped up and set on the table, but seeing how my shotgun mic is an on-camera microphone, well, this thing's not working. I have major problems for this thing because I feel like this is only useful if you're using a standalone shotgun mic. I just don't see much use out of it. In the end, I'm gonna give this a use list because if you're not actually making a film with an actual shotgun mic and whole audio recording set, then there's really no use for this thing. On to number 6. This is gonna be a silhouette grate. So what you're gonna need is a big piece of cardboard so it goes over whatever light you're gonna use. And then all you have to do is just draw and cut out the shape that you want. Now I'm just doing this as an example because I'm not really planning to use these things. It's not the longest lane, it's a little too wide of gaps, but you get the point. Now the only annoying thing about this thing is if you don't set it up properly or if your light's not strong enough, then the silhouettes aren't gonna work as well. Now they add some great texture, but it's only if you can set it up properly. So I'm gonna put it more in the middle, but it's useful, but on the lower side. Number 7 is a front camera silhouette. So what we're gonna need is a big flat piece of cardboard. I didn't get the right size, but it'll work. And then you're gonna just draw like a little bit of a design. So I'm gonna do like a keyhole. It's pretty easy, pretty standard for one of these point of view shots of like someone looking through the keyhole. And then all you have to do is just cut it out so that way you leave a perfectly good hole. So then what you do is bring it up to the lens so that way it's a POV of looking through the keyhole. And the other thing you notice is that you see a lot of cardboard. So all I did was get a black marker, just color in, and if you have black spray paint, that'll work better. So there, now it looks a little bit better, but I still don't find use out of this, so I'm just gonna throw it away. I'm putting this on the useless side because I just really don't see a point in this. I mean, it's good for really cool and interesting shots. I just don't see any use out of it. All right, we're in the home stretch. Number 8, this is a GoPro Fly Cam. All right, for this Fly Cam, you're gonna need to get your action camera, and then you're gonna get some bubble wrap. If you can get packaging foam, that'll be better. And you're just gonna wrap it around your action camera. Make sure you get a pretty good layer. So yeah, I'm gonna cut off some more here and just wrap it around really well so that way it's very protected. Next, you're gonna create a rocket shape. I don't think this is the best example. You probably wanna watch the video of the guys making it. They had a better example. And what you're gonna do is actually make 2 of these guys. So now what you need to do is you're gonna have to cross them over each other. So what I would do is cut an incision on the bottom on one and then cut an incision on the top of the other, so that way they fold over together, and then you can just tape it so that way it works a little bit better. And what this will do is help propel the GoPro forward without really like falling flat on its face. The next step though is you have to find a way to attach the GoPro to this rocket fin. I just did some tape, and you can use some cardboard on the backing, but this is really the only way you can do it. But yeah, there's this janky looking fly cam that's not very safe or secure. This thing is pretty interesting. If done well, it'll be useful and makes for interesting shots. However, this is a very dangerous thing to use if you don't have the right tools and make it right. I find this thing absolutely dangerous, and if you don't have the right action camera, this is something that's probably not very common to use. I think the idea is pretty great, but you have to really build it well. So I'm putting this on useless. All right, and on to number 9, we're gonna make a gel frame for your lights. What you're gonna do is get a big piece of cardboard, and then you're gonna get an LED panel and trace out the size. Then what you're gonna do is cut out the piece. You're gonna actually make 2 of these guys. The next thing you're gonna do is actually trace out another rectangle on the inside of these pieces and then cut it out so you have a little bit of a frame. Then you're gonna get your gel, or in this case, I'm gonna just use some regular paper to do like diffusion. Then you're just gonna trace it out and then just sandwich it between the frames. And then ideally this frame would actually fit in between the LED panel, but seeing how I didn't trace it properly for it to fit inside, there's really no need for this thing. So one thing about this gel frame is that it's only useful if you have actual LED panels. These are made to be able to just place onto the LED panels. The other thing about it is most LEDs for video production, they tend to have little notches to hold the gels anyways. So I really don't see any point in this, so it's useless. Alright, so that's all 9 DIY rigs. So in the end, which cardboard rig did you find useful? Tell me down below, and also tell me which rig you might actually make. Please like this video, and definitely you want to subscribe so you can see more future content, and follow me on Instagram so that way we can keep in contact, and you can see more of my photos and other behind the scenes stuff. And until next video, see ya.